interested in having a career in entertainment, particularly being an actor? If so, you definitely want to check out this video because I'm dropping 5 solid strategies that are going to help you kill it as an actor. Let's go. Hey guys, it's Latasha Kennedy. I am a filmmaker, a writer, a producer, an actress, and I wanted to hop on here to help those of you who want to become actors. I get that question a lot. So yeah, let's hop right into it. Okay, so number one, the first thing you want to do before you even get started with a career in acting is you want to be able to count the cost. And that might not sound like something that you hear a lot, but it is incredibly important because of the fact that you really want to consider all that you're going to have to do to be successful as an actor. There is an incredible amount of skill that will be needed, time, money will need to be spent. And so if you really want to be competitive, if you really want to be taken seriously, you want to consider, do you have the time? Do you have the money? Are there certain sacrifices that you're going to be willing to make to go to class instead of doing some other things that you've enjoyed doing up until this time? And it should be fun. It should be something that you're looking forward to doing. But nevertheless, you do want to consider what you're willing to put on the line, what you're willing to do to accomplish certain goals that you have as an actor. Number two, you want to consider the genre that you'd like to start in. Now, I know that you probably see actors and they move from television to commercials to theater, and that is awesome. And it's absolutely possible. But when you're first starting, you want to pick an area that you're going to specialize in. So, for example, I started in theater. And theater really helped me to develop a discipline for learning material, reading plays, knowing different authors, and the way that a story develops over 3 acts, right? So you want to do the same. If you don't necessarily have to start with theater, though. I think theater is a great place to start just because of the fact that, like I said, it helps you develop a discipline. You learn how to show up on time because if you don't, the play can't start without you. And if it does, it's going to start with your understudy and now you're probably out of a job. But it takes something to show up for rehearsals, and it takes something to continuously work on a character, doing it over, to work on sometimes plays rehearse for 3 months, 4 months, sometimes longer, just depending on what it is. And you really do build something special as a theater actor, and then you have to show up every day and be willing to put yourself in makeup and put wigs on and, just do all the things that are required in order to be able to be this character. And then in theater, you're not quite done until the last curtain has dropped. And that's when you can say, okay, I'm done with this play. But even though you might be in previews or the show may have opened, you're always thinking about how you can further develop this character, how you can, hit certain beats even better. It's a lot, but it is something that stays with you and that you can carry through other genres. But I say all of that to say that every genre has very specific things that you have to learn and execute in order to be great at it. And film is much different than theater. Commercials are much different. And while on the surface they all seem the same, they all require a different skill level. So you definitely want to take into consideration where you'd like to start. What area will you be dope in? And then you can just kind of carry that success into all the other areas that you want to work in. So after you have absolutely decided that this is what you're going to do, you've picked a genre that you absolutely love and want to start in, then it's time to find a teacher. And I know that if you're in like New York or LA or even some of the smaller but very busy regions like DC and Chicago and even Atlanta, finding teachers in any genre can be quite simple. But when you're in smaller states or smaller cities, it may be a little bit of a challenge. However, it's a challenge, it's not completely impossible. So if you're in one of the smaller cities, you definitely just want to sort of do a Google search and start with, the best in your city. Some people ask me also, do I recommend doing the private classes? Just find a really cool coach to coach you. And I'm not totally against it, but I do think that there is value in being in class, because when you're in class, you can not only are you building community, and particularly if you're new to the game, you definitely need a community. You need people who can show you the ropes, tell you where you need to be, tell you, what shows are opening, and different people that you can join and just learn from, right? I also think that in class it's very valuable to be able to learn how to get up in front of people and perform, because essentially that's what you're doing, regardless of whether or not you choose commercials, film, theater, television. It doesn't matter. There is always some element of performance, right? So when you're in a class, you sort of have to be willing to be vulnerable and to demonstrate, what you're learning in front of like 10, 20, however big your class is, right? And I think that that's valuable. I also think that when you're in class, there is something very significant to being able to learn from your classmates. And so sometimes you see people who you absolutely admire and they're struggling in a particular area, or they're really excelling in a certain area. And somehow that translates lessons, and you're able to discern certain things in certain areas that you need to grow or could grow in, just based on what you're observing from your classmates. So I don't necessarily discourage people from really trying to find a great class in their city. Another tip in terms of finding a great teacher is to call agencies or casting directors that are in your area and just ask them, who are the acting coaches in this area that you tend to see talent come from, or that you tend to send your talent to. They'll have that information, and it's not hard to get. It's just simply a phone call, honestly. Okay, so now that you have a teacher and you're in class, you definitely want to start looking for a headshot photographer. And this part it takes some time, I think, just because every photographer is not created equal. That background noise is my doorbell. But you want to hear from a headshot photographer in terms of what their style is, what their process is. You also want to know, does this headshot photographer give you all the shots, or are they giving you a certain amount of shots? Is that enough for you? The price point obviously matters, but I find that it's really important to go into your headshot session being incredibly clear about what your photographer is going to be giving to you, and if all of what they give, fulfills your particular needs. So I think that it's great to have conversations either over the phone or via email or stopping by. Obviously, you're going to see their work, either Instagram or their Facebook page or their website, or maybe someone in class, has great headshots and you're sort of going to them. But even though that person has a great headshot, it doesn't necessarily mean that photographer is best for you. And I think it's also very important, particularly for people of color, that when you're looking through a photographer's portfolio, that person has just as much or just as many people of color in their portfolio that are photographed well, as they do any other race or ethnicity. And that is extremely important, just because it it suggests that they know how to light you, they understand, different pigmentation, stuff like that. All of that stuff is really, really important. So take your time. There's no rush. In finding a photographer, and you can make that same phone call to agencies and casting directors' offices in your region, asking who they use, who are their favorite photographers, and you can still do your own due diligence in terms of, just a Google search of headshot photographers in your town or using the hashtag on Instagram. But that extensive search will definitely help you find the perfect photographer for you. Oh, and by the way, do not pick out your own headshot. It's tempting because we live in a selfie age and we go through our photos and we pick the best selfie that we like. But when you pick your headshot, you really want to allow other people to be involved in that process. So you want to involve your teacher or your classmates. I know there have been times that I picked a headshot and I'm like, yes, like I love this one, right? And then I show my friends my portfolio, peers in the industry, and even my husband, and they picked out a totally different photo, and and dope photos nevertheless. But I was like, wait, what you mean? Like I was all about this one, and they were like, no, boo, this one, because it's your photo also is your essence, and sometimes we don't always see ourselves the way others see us. And so in my case, that has always been beneficial, and it's always advised that actors just don't pick their own headshots. So, okay, so after you have gotten your headshots and you've been in class for a while and you're feeling confident, okay, you might not be feeling confident. You may be feeling scared because class is, it builds like sort of like a cushion, and it can also become a crutch. So let me say that if you've been in class for like at least 3 to 6 months consistently, you're ready to submit. Even if you don't feel like it and you're scared, you should do it, because auditioning it works another muscle. And you're probably learning about auditioning, going through monologues and that kind of thing in class, and that's also very important. But there is something very different when you're walking into a room and no one knows you and you don't know anyone, and you're having to, do a monologue or do like a cold read for them, in the effort to, put your name in the hat for a role. Okay, so try it. It will be scary. So don't try to get around that. You just have to kind of embrace that and use that for your, for that energy that you need anyway to rock out. But don't shy away from it because you're scared. So when you're submitting to trades, and trades are basically your backstage, your Actors Access, all of the different sites that basically casting directors and writers and anyone who has a project is submitting to. And you can find paid work, you can find free work, you can find student work, you can find television shows, regional theater plays. It's all there, one way or another. I think that it's a great idea if you're a beginner to start with small, low hanging fruit. So if you're in the theater, if you've decided theater is your area where you want to start, community theater is an incredible place to start. You'll get to know more people, in the industry. And it's a great place to just practice. I don't think that I think there's there's this race to, be like whoever you see on television. And the truth of the matter is that that person has been likely. I mean, there are some cases in which people just get found off the street, right? But the majority of those actors that you see who are really great at what they do and who you greatly respect, they have been at it for years. So there's no rush, right? If you've already counted the cost and you've decided that this is something that you really want to be great at, then you're going to have to put the time in to be great at it. And it doesn't hurt to apply to some things that are a little bit lower on the totem pole so you can really see how the process works. Really, go to your first, audition or getting your first play, and be able to really work that muscle and then move from community theater to small regional theaters or off Broadway or, just places where you're going to be able to constantly learn and be able to go back to class and take some of those lessons, and your teacher can sort of help you navigate the land, right? You can absolutely jump out there also and just go for the big stuff. You're like, listen, I've been in class. I got this bomb headshot. I'm just going to go start auditioning, standing in line for Equity Theater productions. You can do that too. Like I'm not discouraging you from doing any of that. What I'm saying is also don't be afraid or don't shy away from the process, because there is really a process to becoming great. It doesn't happen overnight, and there's a lot of lessons to learn to something new. So if you're just coming into being an actor, you want to be able to really enjoy the process, and you want to meet as many people as you can, and you want to really understand the nuances that go into building characters and different types of characters, and where are the resources and the people, and what type of theater do you like? Do you like Shakespeare and classical theater? Do you like contemporary theater? You want to have an opportunity to just kind of try it without the stakes always being so high, which the higher up you go, the higher the stakes are. So if you want to take the big leap, take the big leap. But here's the other thing. When you go to bigger markets, they're more saturated, right? So everybody in New York who's in that line, it's either one of two things. Either they've been in that line for years and they're fully prepared, or they're newbies or somewhere in between. And it's a great idea if you do want to go to bigger markets, to go to bigger markets with a resume or, with like solid experience under your belt, so that you can adequately compete with people who've been at it for years and who have things on their resumes that are exceptional, right? You don't want to be the person who is so zealous and so overconfident that you're not doing the work to constantly prepare yourself to really, really be great and to really compete at a high level. So sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think about the advice that I've given. And I'd love to know what genre you're going to start with. So yes, just let me know in the comments. Let me know if this video was helpful. Let me know if there are other topics that you'd like us to cover. I'm actually going to be sharing in the next video mistakes that actors make that really cost filmmakers and directors and casting directors a lot of time and money. So that's going to be really great for you to know. So it's nothing like knowing what to do, but it's also great to know what not to do. So I'm going to break all that down in the next video. So definitely, if you enjoyed this video, please like it, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so that when we drop the next video, you are ready to go. Okay? So thank you so much for checking me out. Thank you so much for listening to this video. And if you want to chat with me more, you can find me on Instagram at Latasha Kennedy. You can also find us, the whole team, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at LMK Entertainment Group. I'm totally rooting for you. Best of all, God is with you, and I'll see you the next time that I come back with some more tea.